Preeti. Thank you, everyone, especially Dr. Sandeep Shekar and Honorable Principal and all the organizers from Dr. D.Y. Patil College of Engineering for inviting me. It's an honor to be presenting at this prestigious event. I will share my screen and start off with what I'm going to talk about. So, given that I have 30 minutes, you know, uh, like was mentioned in my introduction, I worked in the USA for many years and came back to India in 2007. After coming back, I realized that there is a lot of talent here. There is a lot of knowledge which people have, but somehow that whole talent and knowledge, uh, we were not able to take it to creation of new ideas or innovation. So over the period of years, I worked with smaller teams and growing from a smaller set to a larger team size, and then trying to inculcate a behavior or an attitude and give that freedom to people to think in such a way, think creatively, so that I could get new ideas out of them. As mentioned, I've been working on competitive benchmarks where we as Teradata were competing against our competition at various customers, various Fortune 500 customers. And we won a lot of them because we inculcated habits of fast-paced thinking, thinking out of the box, thinking creatively. And what I'm going to present is uh, some of the lessons I have learned from this. So this is not necessarily, what other organizations have done. This is strictly what I have done in my team and how we have been able to incorporate ideas to foster innovation in our teams. Now, there could be a lot of different other ways to do this, but I'm just going to share what my lessons have been. So I'll start with the agenda. What I'm going to talk about is some of the areas where you can help generate new ideas and a culture of innovation, right? Some of them are thinking oriented. How we think does matter. Some are action oriented. What we do matters in how we create new ideas. How we develop ourselves, right? So there are various areas. So I'm going to start talking on one each at a time, and then would be happy to hear your feedback and comments. So the first and foremost thing I realized is developing curiosity. That's, in my opinion, is the number one way we can have a culture of innovation. As senior people, as leaders, or as a new joinee in an organization, we all need to have a curiosity for all that is happening around us. What is happening at our customers, what is happening with our colleagues, with our products, with our services, in our industry. That's the basis of all exploration. We need to go and understand the why, how, what, and when of things happen around us. And this is around for the entire ecosystem, not just the area we are working on, but just looking around us uh, as to understanding things, uh, going behind the reason of how things happen, right? And that can help us to find out new ways to do work, how the current way of working can be improved, and to give a better user experience. Now, you could be in any industry, it could be manufacturing, it could be software, it could be education, uh, medicine, but these principles apply in all these industries. So, number one, developing a curious mind is very important. We often tend to shut our minds off from thinking in new areas because we have been used to think in a certain way. But we have to open up and start becoming curious and thinking in terms of why things are happening in a certain way, what else could be done. Um, the second one is again very important, being observant. A lot of times we are so busy in our day-to-day work, in our day-to-day deliverables, that we stop observing around us what is happening, right? Stop observing what our customers need, what are they trying to do. And customers could be anyone, right? A customer could be a student, A customer could be a company paying for my services or for my products. However, we need to be very observant in terms of what are they trying to do, what are their pain points, how do they serve their customers. Um, that does tell us the purpose behind why things exist or why our customers are doing things in a certain way. It could be a product of observing a product and trying to come up with improvements in that. It could be a process. It could be in a college, you could realize that an examination process could be changed because of certain ideas that you get. It could be in my field, it could be how do I improve the performance of the software, for example, that I'm implementing, or how do I add more value to a customer? What are the use cases, the business outcomes they are trying to achieve? That power of observation should be inculcated so that we can keep our eyes and ears open to absorb any new ideas that we see around us. Right. The third one is extremely important again, being open-minded. All of us have been brought up in a certain way as we grow up. There is a certain culture that we are being brought up in. There is a certain family background all of us have. There is a certain, flavor to the education that we get. And all of that adds up to how we think, right? However, most times that gives us a very focused and narrow way of looking at things. And we tend to continue thinking in a certain way and observing things and making opinions about certain things, judging certain things in a certain way. But when we see something which is different, which is not aligned to how we think, we tend to not accept it, right? And that is a big red flag, in my opinion. We have to open up and see how different people across the world are thinking or how they approach problems just around you. Be open to accepting that changes can happen. Different people can have different opinions, different suggestions, not shutting them down. As leaders, especially, we have to make sure that we create a culture of this openness in our organizations so as to give different people ideas. I have had many new joinees right out of college who have joined my team, and I really love people who are right out of college because they have very fresh perspectives, and I like to listen to them. Why? Because they give ideas which experienced people most likely cannot, because experienced people have a certain way of thinking and they don't want to really change that. But I, as a leader, if I'm open-minded, receptive to different ways of thinking, I can definitely come up with new ways of doing things in my organization, different ideas, different suggestions, different views. So we have to be open-minded because then you can absorb different things and not shut down a path which may lead you to something new. Um, Another area which I think is very important is getting out of your comfort zone. We have heard a lot about successful people who have talked about this. You look at the biography of highly successful people, may be it Sachin Tendulkar, be it Mahatma Gandhi, or anyone else. We always see that they have taken themselves out of their comfort zone. And why that matters is a lot of times we tend to keep doing work in a certain way. We become comfortable with it. We continue doing that and not really push ourselves to do things which we find uncomfortable. That's the easiest way. That's the path of least resistance. And that's why we like doing that. However, if you want to really get something creative done, if you want to innovate, if you want new ideas, staying in the comfort zone is not going to help. You have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, saying, "Let me try these other things. Let us as an organization or let us as a team try new areas." We could fail. That's possible, and that's okay. it will be uncomfortable, but after you pass certain phases of this discomfort, you will realize that it does give better experiences later. Um, you know, I can give an example of myself. So when I joined Teradata, I had a team of around 100 people, and I realized that I'm missing something in that. The managing people uh, does have a lot of administrative overhead, and I was spending a lot of time just doing administrative activities and not really using my skills for doing creative things. Then an opportunity came along where I had to start a team from scratch with nobody in my team and then start hiring. So I started with two people. So gave up the team of 100 people, started with two people. But then, yes, I got out of my comfort zone. I gave up what I had, but to start something new. But it gave me very good results later on because I could get a lot of creative work done. I could get a lot of high-end value-added work done for my organization and for my customers. It was uncomfortable earlier. I used to ask myself, have I taken the right decision or not? But then it ended up on a positive note. Again, at a later point, I had to pretty much start from scratch with my teams. But uh, I took up that challenge because I said, let me get out of my comfort zone because it had started to become very repetitive. I pushed myself out, started something new, which is the architecture practice within Teradata, and I could get success out of that because I decided to take that risk, and I had a team, I had a good management support, which helped me achieve that. Right. So this is very important to be able to create a culture of innovation. Having your people get out of their comfort zone and ourselves as leaders getting outside of our comfort zones. Um, Thinking out of the box. This is extremely critical. Usually, when we are given a problem statement, we are faced with a problem, we tend to think in a certain way. And that comes back to how we have been taught to think. We do not go beyond what has been taught or what has been told to us as right or wrong to think. And then the solutions we come up with usually don't yield the necessary results. Thinking out of the box is extremely important. We have to deviate from traditional thinking. Think all the possibilities. Think about possibilities which people may criticize or people may laugh at, and that's going to happen. Whenever you think out of the box, give suggestions, ideas which are um, not traditional. There will be people who will not like it. There will be people who will criticize, but we have to go past that. We have to accept that, yeah, there will be people doing that. However, if you don't keep trying these, you will not be able to come up with a dramatic result. Um, Not thinking out of the box can give you, mediocre results. Most times it will work, but if you want dramatic results, we have to think out of the box. And there are a lot of such examples in the world. People talk about Apple coming up with the iPhone, or there are so many products and services in the world. We talk about services like Uber, which were not existent, up to a few years ago. Think about Airbnb. There are a lot of such examples where people have thought out of the box and come up with dramatic results. And it need not be a huge idea, right? These principles can be applied on a day-to-day basis in the work we are doing. Uh, that can yield smaller incremental results, but then eventually you can see a big improvement in your organization or the way you're doing things. One more thing is we have to have the courage of thinking out of the box. Most times we are afraid. What will somebody think? Or will my supervisor accept it? Will I be criticized for this? You have to make sure. Fear is a number one enemy for any creative thinking. And as leaders, we have to make sure that fear does not exist in our organizations, as well as individuals. We have to make sure we get rid of that fear and make sure we can think out of the box. We are given the opportunity to present that, right? So coming up with solutions which are non-traditional always can lead to new ideas and innovation. Um, Now, from an action perspective, understanding your customers' needs. This may seem like very simple, or you might say, "Oh, we all always do that." Yes, we always try to understand your customers' needs, but I've seen several times that we assume what the customer needs. So somebody asks for a certain thing, we give a solution immediately. We jump to giving solutions because we want to keep the customer happy. Whenever a customer gives us a problem, the first thing that comes to our mind is let's provide a solution. But that's not the right approach. First, we have to really understand what they're looking for. Sometimes even our customers don't know what they're looking for. They will give a problem statement, but they really don't know what they're looking for. So asking them a lot of questions, asking them how we are solving their problems, how are our competitors solving their problems, really doing deep dive sessions with them. And now there is a whole area called design thinking, which works in this area. However, uh, at a basic, not just jumping to solutions or giving answers, but making sure we ask a lot of questions, we understand what they need. It's most like, if I give a problem statement to somebody saying, I need to be good at statistics. Now somebody just gives me a statistics book, that's a solution. But really understanding what do I need, where am I going to use it for, what is the business need, what is the application, that can tell me, okay, what area of statistics is necessary, what kind of you know educational material would be necessary. So asking a lot of questions is necessary from the point to make sure that the outcomes that your customers are expecting are met based on what they are asking for. So this is very important. We should not feel shy of asking a lot of questions to our customers, to our any stakeholders that you're discussing with, before we jump to any conclusions. Um, Another thing I found very important, and I encourage that in my teams quite a lot, is challenging the status quo. Um, there are a lot of predefined processes, ways of working that we have seen in any organization. You go to a new company, you join a new organization. We are told that this is the way things have been done. If we suggest something new, we might be asked or told that this cannot be changed because we have been doing it for several years. But you could see that there are different ways of doing things, and you should be able to challenge that. There could be better ways. However, there is a way to challenge. People have been doing certain things and they have been working, so we have to respect that. At the same time, if you think there are different ways of doing things, uh, come up with a plan to present that, of how you think, right? So you have to disrupt positively, not in terms of just trying to dismantle how things are done, but ensure that you present in a positive way. Excuse me. Excuse me. So challenging the current ways is extremely important, and we have to do it in a positive manner, because otherwise you're going to create conflict within your own organization, which you don't want. So my recommendation is always try to be on the lookout for where can we change things, where can we make them better, but be ready to say, okay, we have to change what we're doing up till now, challenge that and take it to a new level. So this will enable innovation, because now that you have challenged that, you have the opportunity to change. This is where you can use innovative ideas, and creating an environment where people are not afraid of challenging the status quo is very important, because otherwise you're killing innovation at the foundational level. Um, then another thing which is very important I found is, as you are going along, when you get new ideas, you think of how you are going to change things or any new ideas. Uh, document them, right? Um, you can document the first idea that comes to your mind, and it will get refined over time. Um, because you might forget at a later point what had I thought about a certain thing. I have a lot of times, like if I'm driving a car and I think of something, I may forget it later on. But I try to keep a habit of just typing it in as soon as I can, uh, so that it stays with me. I can present it at the right time, at the right place. Um, all of us, I'm sure, listen to music, but we all know that any musical tune is not just created in one shot, right? It is created first, and it is refined over time, so that the music composer comes up with a final creation. That is very important. So your ideas have to be refined. And that uh, iterative process is going to give you more and more better solutions. But then keep a record of what you have been doing, right? So your ideas have to be documented. Any refinements you think of have to be documented, uh, and any prototypes you can create of that. So there has to be a record of all that. This is by far, I think, one of the most important aspects, which is collaboration. When I came back from the US, started working in India, first thing I realized is people are very reluctant to share knowledge, right? Uh, Maybe because they feel insecure that if I share my knowledge, I may become irrelevant. I may, my value to the organization may reduce. I may lose my job and whatnot. However, it's the exact opposite. The more knowledge you share, and you all, most of you are faculty, you are in the business of sharing knowledge. So there are people who learn from you and then go in the industry and do well. So this applies mostly to people who are, in the corporate world, where I've seen lack of an ability or lack of the inclination to share knowledge has caused a lot of, it just kills innovation. When I share my knowledge is not going to go down, but I may get some good ideas from the other person. If I come up with a new idea, instead of just thinking alone on it, after I have some initial thoughts on that, I should collaborate that with others, discuss it, get inputs from others, feedback from others, let them find faults in my ideas. Let me brainstorm it, let them ask difficult questions, and that way I can refine my idea. I do that all the time in my organization. I have if I come up with something, I consult my own team, I consult my peers, ask them, how does this sound? Sometimes I'll get good feedback. Sometimes I'll say, no, this is not going to work, and people will give constructive criticism, and all that is necessary. It also helps me get different perspectives uh, from people working in different areas in the organization. So that is very necessary. So collaboration and discussion, uh, as a habit, helps that you can get different views and be able to generate new ideas. Um, this is another important aspect: continuous learning, right? So we all, come up with a certain education, we have a certain experience, and we keep working in a certain field, but the world is moving so fast. We all know, be it technology, be it medicine, be it engineering, uh, be it any other area. Uh, the world is really moving very fast. We call it the fourth industrial revolution now. But for us to keep up with that and keep innovating is not easy, right? So we have to keep ourselves modern. We have to keep learning, reading, attending conferences such as these. This is a very good way for people to learn. Uh, Attending, any specific, webinars, being on different distribution lists, uh, having knowledge sharing sessions within the organization. All that gives very good ideas by networking with different people. And I've always observed whenever I go to such a conference, I always learn, come back with a lot of different ideas which I can apply to my own team. So that helps, us keeping modern, because otherwise, especially in my industry, becoming irrelevant can happen very fast. The technology industry is moving at such a high pace. If I do not modernize myself constantly, I might fall behind and I might become irrelevant in my industry. Therefore, now the pace of innovation is different for every industry, but we have to make sure that we keep ourselves modern. We keep continuously learning, and this habit also has to be inculcated in students, right, who are coming from colleges such as yours, other education institutions. That just getting out of college is just the beginning. They have to keep learning. We say we are students for life, and that is true. We have to keep learning constantly in our fields. Um, Now, a lot of times I've seen that people in my team have come up with some good ideas, but the ideas have not been accepted by me. I don't accept them because the person has not been convincing enough. And why that is because either they have not prepared themselves well, they have not done their homework well, they have not looked at all the aspects, or they are not able to articulate it convincingly. So developing presentation skills is extremely important if you have to get forth your idea to your organization or your peers. There are a lot of online courses available on presentation skills. I'm sure they are also happening in colleges. But ability to present a certain new concept so that people accept that takes skills, right? And you have to understand the problem statement. Uh, you should be able to convince what are the solutions for this problem statement, what are the gains from it, and why your idea is going to work. This comes from practice. It cannot just come. Some people have a natural skill to present well, but not everyone has that. However, that can be achieved by practice. What I do is I usually rehearse my presentations. Like even this one, I've tried to rehearse a couple of times before I presented this, because I want to do a good job at that. I want to make sure that the message I want to give is sent across properly, right? So all of us need to keep making sure that we keep developing our presentation skills, because any new innovative idea you have, any new creation you want to do, cannot be accepted unless you can present it properly to the right audience, right? Um, and then lastly, allowing mistakes. We all make mistakes on the way. Uh, I create a culture in my organization, my teams, that it's okay to do mistakes. I do not start reprimanding people if they make mistakes, because that creates a culture of fear. People then stop really thinking. People stop thinking creatively. Uh, when you make mistakes, do not reprimand yourself. I have done that myself, where in the past or even today, if I make some mistakes, I start feeling guilty. I start blaming myself, but then that stops my creative ability. So it's okay to do mistakes, but learn from them, and then share that learning with other people in your organization so that they don't do the same mistakes, right? It's always okay to do mistakes, and do not be afraid of doing mistakes. It's okay, and creating that culture in our organization is also okay, because then people will keep trying new things. A lot of the new innovations we see in the world have come from people who have failed initially in a lot of different ways and then come up with that innovation. We only see the end result, which is the innovation, but we don't see the steps along the way that people have gone through, where they have failed, they have made mistakes, because nobody really documents that. So we have to make sure we are okay in doing mistakes, and then we can come up with a culture and a process where innovation can be seen, because we have gone through all the mistakes, we have learned from them, and then we can generate new ideas. So, in summary, creation of new ideas or innovation, it's a continuous process. It cannot happen overnight. And we have to create a culture where this kind of principles are followed. We do it iteratively. It is continuous. We keep doing it every day. Every hour of the day, we get these habits, and that can help us actually generate high quality ideas from not just from yourself, but from your teams, from your peers, and creating that culture. Right. So, in conclusion, yeah, I would like to just mention that this is definitely an iterative process, a continuous process, and having these habits will help create an organization which can give you new ideas and innovation. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you. Thanks a lot.